This video covers Part C, which is a multi-step problem that we will solve together. Part D you will do independently on the following slide. Your slides are marked in the top right corner and either say with video or independent. We will be using the writer strategy to solve multi-step word problems. Here are the 5 steps involved in the writer strategy. We will begin solving Part C. Let's begin by reading the directions. Directions. Solve the word problem below using the writer strategy. We're going to begin with R. Read and annotate the question. Part C. Of the 3,648 pastries made during one shift, 1/4 of the pastries are filled with cream. How many pastries are not filled with cream each shift? Now that we have read the question, it's time to annotate. In the purple box, you will use these tools to annotate. You can either box or circle, underline, or highlight. Let's begin by underlining the question. You can click on the underline, I'm going to choose blue, and put it at the beginning of our question. Then we grab the circle on the right end and drag it over to the end of our question. Our question is, how many pastries are not filled with cream? Next, we're going to box the important parts of the question. So I like to start over at the beginning and read until I get to punctuation. Of the 3,648 pastries made during one shift, and there's a comma, so we're going to stop there. Is there anything important in this part of the sentence? Yeah, we need to know that there are this many pastries made during one shift. So we're going to click on the box and move it up and box the important information and drag so that we can circle what we need to. Let's continue reading. 1/4 of the pastries are filled with cream. So our question is asking us how many pastries are not filled with cream. So I'm going to highlight the word not filled with cream. But if we pay really close attention, here it says 1/4 of the pastries are filled with cream. So although 1/4 is important, and we are going to box 1/4 of the pastries are filled with cream, we now know that this is going to be 2 steps because at first we're given information about the ones that are filled with cream, but the question is asking about the ones that are not filled. If you do not have a piece of paper in front of you, you need to pause the video and get one. Now that your piece of paper is in front of you, make sure you have your 4 quadrants drawn. Draw a line down the middle and a line about 3/4 of the way down your page. Remember, if at any time during this video I'm going too quickly, you can pause the video and catch up. You can also always rewind if you need to hear something again. Go ahead and write I in your first quadrant. Now we can do identify a strategy. We are going to choose which operations we are going to use. Addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, or comparing. Let's write down the information that we know. We know that there are 3,648 pastries made during one shift. We also know that 1/4 of the pastries are filled with cream. However, our question is not asking us how many are filled with cream. It's asking us how many are not filled with cream. As we're thinking about a strategy, I want us to think about a bar model. We know that there are 3,648 pastries made during one shift. Out of these 3,648 pastries, 1/4 are filled with cream. So I'm going to draw a bar model directly underneath that is the same size as the bar model I've already drawn. But I'm going to split this bar model into fourths because we know that 1/4 are filled with cream. I'm going to use yellow and fill it with cream. Make sure that we label that 1/4 is filled with cream. These other 3 parts, though, are not filled with cream. So the other 3/4 are not filled with cream. And we're going to label those. So in order to figure out what operations we're using, we're going to say we started with 3,648 pastries. And we had to split it up into fourths. When we split something up, what are we doing? We're dividing. So I'm going to circle dividing. How many parts did we divide these pastries into? We divided them into 4 parts. So down here on your equation, we would have 3,640 divided into 1, 2, 3, 4 parts. Let's write that. 3,648 divided by 4 equals how many are filled with cream? So I'm going to put a C here so that we know these are the cream-filled ones. Now there's another part to this equation. We have to figure out how many are not filled with cream. So the number that we get as this yellow part is 1/4 of the amount. However, we need to figure out what these 3/4 are of 3,648. So what could we do to find how much these 3 parts represent? Well, once we know what C is, it has to be the same in all of these parts because they're equal pieces. So we could either take C 3 times or add C 3 times. So you get to choose. Are you going to take C times 3, or are you going to add C plus C plus C? And that will give you the amount that is not filled with cream. Now that we have our equations, let's explain our rationale for choosing division, then multiplication. Let's begin with why we chose division. Here is a sentence stem. I chose division because, now let's look back at our bar model. Why did we decide to divide? What in the problem told us that we needed to divide? Well, we needed to figure out what 1/4 of 3,648 is. So we can write, I chose division because I needed to find out what 1/4 of 3,648 is. So I divided by 4. Once you knew how many were 1/4, you could have taken that amount times 3 or added that amount 3 times. You also could have taken 3,648 and subtracted the amount that we knew. So on this next part, I actually want you to explain the rest of which strategy you chose and why. Here's a sentence stem to get you started. I chose to, did you choose to add, multiply, or subtract next because, and then complete the rest of your answer. Pause the video here so you can do this on your paper. Great! Now we are going to do D, draw a model. We are all going to begin by writing 3,648 divided by 4 because that's the first step that we did in this problem. You may choose whichever division strategy works best for you. Pause the video so that you can solve 3,648 divided by 4. Now you're going to solve the next step. So depending on which of these three you did, you're going to solve that using the answer that you got in your division. If you're unsure if your division is correct, you can check it by taking your quotient times your divisor plus any remainders, and that should equal your dividend. So go ahead and multiply, add, or subtract depending on which strategy you used. Pause the video to do that now. Now it's time to solve the equation. We're going to use our equations that we wrote down to represent the situation over here. We have 3,648 divided by 4 equals, and then you need to put your answer that you found up here as your answer here. You may not leave a blank there. Then we're going to write the equation for whichever strategy you used over here, which are highlighted in red for your convenience. You can write below, on the line below, our division problem. Then you need to make sure that you put the unit. So our question is talking about how many pastries. So our unit is going to be pastries. Pause the video if you need more time to write out your equation. The hard part is over. Now we're going to E, evaluate. Is my answer reasonable? So look at the question. How many pastries are not filled with cream each shift? You answered this many pastries. Does that answer make sense? We can think to ourselves, is the number of pastries that I got smaller than 3,648? Should be. If I was to take this number of pastries and then add the number of pastries filled with cream, will I still get 3,648? You can quickly check, and then we can write about the reasonableness of our answer. Now the great part about this is there's many ways to think about one math problem. So as long as you talk about your reasoning for dividing and your rationale for choosing one of these, and if it checked or if you compared it to the whole, that is talking about if your answer is reasonable. So you can write why your answer is reasonable. I'm going to give you an example. When I divided the whole into 4 parts, I knew that 3 of those parts were not filled with cream. So I divided to see how much one part was, then I added that amount 3 times to find the amount not filled with cream. This amount was smaller than what I started with. Go ahead and pause the video so that you can write your explanation for why your answer is reasonable. The last thing that we're going to do is R, respond. Answer the question, explain your thinking if the question asks you to. Let's read the underlined part again. How many pastries are not filled with cream each shift? So we're going to answer in a complete sentence. Pastries are not filled with cream each shift. Go ahead and write your answer in the respond quadrant. Once this is all on your paper, you may type your answers on the next slide. Great job! Once you're finished typing the answers, On the next slide, the following slide is marked as independent. This slide you will do on your own using the writer strategy. A helpful hint. This question is asking how many cream-filled pastries are made each week. So we need to think back to our last problem when we figured out the cream-filled pastries, which was C in our last problem. So we found in the last problem that C was 912. Now it's your job to figure out how many, that was for one shift. We need to figure out that for 3 shifts, 7 days a week. Keep up the great work.